Now then, the Prime Minister David Cameron is currently having a public war of words with the Treasury over the best way to deal with the rising price of fuel.
However, if words don't turn into actions, we could be in line for a repeat of the blockades that took place back in 2000, as Justin Rolert's been finding out.
It is the summer of 2000 and the entire economy has been brought to its knees by a nationwide protest against high fuel prices. In the space of just 7 years, British fuel has gone from being amongst the cheapest in Europe to the most expensive.
And it seems that some things never change. A decade down the line and fuel prices are set to reach all-time record highs. Some people think that by the summer, diesel could cost £1.50 a litre, with unleaded just a few pence behind.
Haulage companies are suffering like never before. I'm hitching a ride with Steve Bowles. He delivers everything from soap to cereal.
Our fuel costs have gone up by £6,000 a month. And we have to keep going back to our clients saying, look, the fuel price has gone up. Yet again, we've got to charge you more. And it gets to the stage where the client says, look, I haven't got any more to give you.
So what does the future hold, do you think, if fuel prices continue to rise?
It makes our life tougher. You could come to the day where we may have to say enough is enough.
When fuel prices rise, there are normally a number of factors at work. Global oil prices, which have now hit almost $100 a barrel, is one of them.
But there is another, and this one is much closer to home.
Last March, the then Chancellor Alistair Darling made this announcement.
Fuel duty will rise by a penny in April, which is less than inflation, and it will be followed by a further 1 penny rise in October and the remainder in January.
And there is another rise in the pipeline. It's due in April. Campaigners say enough is enough.
And it's not just a penny, a penny, a penny. It's a penny plus the inflation. I think you'll find when April comes, it will go up by nearly 4 or 4.5p. What's happened is that the combination of duty rise and the extra VAT, we've gone to a situation where we're threatening the whole livelihood of the economy.
If people are so angry about this, why aren't we seeing the kind of protests we saw back in, 2000?
People are getting a lot more angry, but they don't want the fuel blockades and barricades. What is the point of stopping fuel to hospitals and schools and disrupting an economy that's already struggling?
The government says addressing this country's economic problems is its main priority.
We're actually spending £120 million every day just paying for the debt interest. 1 pence fuel duty rise will bring in 500 million. So 500 million is a lot of cash.
It's quite easy. I mean, there was a Tory policy, wasn't there, to bring in a price stabiliser which would address this kind of problem, would make sure that duty wasn't increased at a time when petrol prices were increasing.
You're right. It's one of the things that we're looking at to see whether we can progress to the budget.
Why not do it?
We've had the Office for Budget Responsibility look at how the oil price affects our economy. That's not the only thing that's happening. I'd already planned to talk about how we can help people to get into cars that are more fuel efficient in the first place, so they're not having to spend as much money on filling up their tank every month.
So it looks like we are going to see the next 1p fuel duty rise come April. That's not the news truckers like Steve and millions of motorists around the country want to hear.
We've seen all sorts of things over the years, but this is the worst thing I have ever seen in the whole of my career in road transport, which is over 30 years now.
It's a little bit depressing, to say the least, don't you think?
Absolutely. Well, Justin's joined us. Now, we'll say for argument's sake that the average cost of unleaded petrol is what, £1.28 per litre?
Yeah, that's the average price, yeah.
So how much of that goes to the government then in tax?
63%. So 60p goes in fuel duty and another 20p almost goes in, slightly more than 20p actually, goes in VAT. So a total of 80p out of your £1.28 goes to the taxman.
So has it been a sort of gradual creep of price since 2000? Because it's quite easy to forget what's happened during that time.
No, absolutely. I mean, remember back then when the protesters were on the street, what do you think the price was then? It was 80 pence, and it's risen steadily since then. So all the way up to 2008, when prices ratcheted up very suddenly up to £1.20, the world oil price went through the roof, fell back down again as the world slump hit, right back down to 86p a litre. And look what's happened since then, all the way back up again to record prices. £1.28 is an all-time high.
It's very expensive. But, I mean, this tax is so unpopular, so why then are the government going ahead with it?
Well, yeah, they're going ahead with it for a very good reason. As we saw in the film, they're very worried about where the money's going to come from.
Yeah.
But more importantly, they're worried about the long-term price of oil. And they think oil prices are going to go on going up. So they're $100 a barrel now. And I was actually talking to a kind of billionaire speculator, a guy called Jim Rogers, today. He says he's bought tons of oil futures because he thinks that $150 a barrel, $200 a barrel is perfectly reasonable. That could easily happen. So the government think fuel prices are going to go on rising. If they start cutting the tax now, they're going to lose all that revenue they get from our fuel.
So £1.28 is nothing?
No, it's going to go
Possibly.
on up. That's the long-term forecast.
Are you filling your car up at the moment, Vanessa?
Gosh, yes, I am, but I'm considering Shanks's pony as an alternative now.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Well, those are the only people who support these price rises, who are happy to see prices go up. The Greens, who say this is great, it'll persuade people to buy more efficient cars and, as you say, to walk.
OK, yeah.